Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here in my isolated bunker here in Burbank, California. I am, of course, your host, John Campea. It is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather together as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, entertainment, all sorts of good stuff. And joining me here today, sitting right over here, actually, is the one and the only on this glorious Friday. We renamed it Rob Day, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
John, I'm doing well. It's nice to be here. You know, it's raining, and it's going to be raining for the next 5 days in California, and everyone's going to get a cold, and everyone's going to freak out thinking they're dying.
This is one thing I don't get about California. I don't get it. Like, it's people lose their minds. I mean, this has been the entire time I've lived here. Now, I'm from the East Coast, but people lose their minds when it rains here. People lose their mind when it rains here. They forget how to drive. It's actually infuriating. It's like, I would talk to friends like, oh, hey, we're going to go to dinner tonight. Like, any time that I live here, it's like, oh, I don't know. It's raining outside. It's raining. Who cares? It's raining.
Dude,
it's
I'm
fine.
from Seattle. I have no tolerance.
Yeah, you're from Seattle.
No
you
tolerance.
know this.
Yeah.
Anyway, also joining us, who's from somewhere a little further east than here, of course, on this Friday, it's Erin Cummings, everybody. Erin, how you doing?
Not well. My seasonal affect disorder is really kicking into high gear. And you know what? I'm from Texas, where it rains bullets of rain, and we sit out on the porch and we drink mint juleps and we enjoy every minute of it. But I have to say, LA is not built for the rain. This town, you know, it rains 1 inch and all the streets flood. That's why people can't drive. It's not that we're afraid of the rain. It's that this city literally will flood with the slightest bit of rain. But I did finish McMillions last night.
Oh,
and that was awesome.
How is that?
You know what? It's actually, there are some characters. The lead FBI detective specifically just cracks me up. It's a really, really entertaining docuseries. I highly recommend it. And at the very end, we do find out who the informant is. And whoa, that's all I have to say. So highly, highly recommend it. It's a really fun series.
Yeah, Ann and Corey have been over here watching it, and I've just been catching it a little bit out of the corner of my eye. It does seem kind of interesting, so I might have to check that out.
Yeah, and it's humorous. It's a fun one to watch too.
All right, guys. Well, listen, we do have a bunch of stuff to talk about here today. Obviously, we're going to talk about, oh, look, surprise, surprise, everybody. New Mutants is getting delayed again.
I feel so bad for
But
Bill
so is
Sienkiewicz.
Mulan, Antlers. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to be talking about how does this whole thing really long-term, is this going to affect the movie theater and the movie theater industry? It's a little bit more serious than people think, I believe. What's going to happen with Black Widow right now? That's still a question that's on the table. We're going to talk about all that and a few things more. But before we get to that stuff, we got a couple of things to talk about here off the top. And one of the things we're going to talk about off the top is this. You know, in a day, we're going to be talking more about this a little bit later, where a lot of movies are being pulled off their release schedules. We sometimes forget there's still a lot of production going on. And to that, Tom Holland, the dude who's playing Spider-Man, has come out and actually let everybody know when the planned shoot for Spider-Man 3 actually starts. And he's come out and let everybody know that Spider-Man 3 starts shooting in July in Atlanta. So that is their current scheduled time to start shooting that. Now, I know they're also supposed to be shooting Uncharted like any minute now. So I don't know if they're going to do that and be done it. I don't know if they're going to postpone. I haven't heard anything about them postponing the shooting for Uncharted. So I can only assume they're going to be done shooting Uncharted by the time they get around to doing this. All other things being equal, and if there's no delays, and that's obviously a huge question right now. But then moving forward, he also confirmed something that nobody ever had any doubt about. Zendaya is going to be coming back to play it. Yeah, I know, right? It's like, oh, he confirms Zendaya is coming back. Well, yeah, okay. And listen, you know what? Let me tell you something. I was neither bothered nor cared that much when they announced that she was going to be the new Mary Jane. I'm like, okay, I really don't know a lot about her. I know she's got a hell of a singing voice. I don't know a lot about her, but in Homecoming, I thought, you know what? She was perfectly fine in Homecoming. I thought she was quite good in my Song and Dance Man movie, The Greatest Showman. I thought she was really good. That musical number, Rewrite the Stars, that she does with Zac Efron is like awesome. Like it seriously was one of my favorite like sequences of the year. It was a beautiful, beautiful piece. And then we saw her in Spider-Man Far From Home, Far From Home. And she picked it up a notch, and she was actually quite good. And I've actually gone from being like indifferent that it's her, never had a problem, but indifferent that it's her, to like, yeah, I really dig her in this series. I mean, they pull a little cheap thing by giving her the initials MJ because she's not Mary Jane Watson. But still, I've come to really like her, and I really like her chemistry with Tom Holland in this thing. Anyway, Rob, any surprises about the announcement of them apparently moving forward Spider-Man 3 as early as July, and any surprises Zendaya's going to be staying in it?
No, I mean, I think both are inevitable. I don't know if they're going to actually start production. I mean, we'll see where that all goes. But Zendaya's great. She plays Chani in Dune, Paul Atreides' love interest, one of the Fremen, and I'm excited to see her there. And if you saw her in Euphoria, she was incredible in that. So she's. I like seeing we're watching. I think the development of somebody who's gonna be a real powerhouse actress in 5 or 10 years. Not that she's not already, but it's nice to see somebody developing their career first through. Well, I mean, Spider-Man isn't exactly a small movie, but
little indie film like Spider-Man.
She's put in the time though.
Right, and I tried watching that Euphoria, not for me. I got a couple episodes in, but you're not wrong about her performance. Her performance was like really, really quite good in that. Erin, you're hearing about this. Any surprises, any shocks? Do you care whether it's I know that you don't sit at home, even though Tom tries to get you to probably watch Spider-Man over and over again. But what are your thoughts on this?
No, actually, he doesn't. I think he really understands and respects my arachnophobia. Unlike
I keep forgetting
some friends
about that.
of ours.
I keep forgetting.
It
about
applies
that.
to Spider-Man though.
Oh, do you not remember the story of when John and I went to go see Spider-Man animated
into the
Spider-Verse?
I kid you not. For those, listen, I take her to go see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, right? And I'm all excited about this movie, and she's like, blah, blah, and I totally forgot.
No, I was interested. Oh, well, the funny thing was someone goes, "Oh yeah, that's a cartoon, right?" I was like, "No, it's not a cartoon. It's Spider-Man."
Yeah, but no.
And she was like, "I think it's a cartoon." I was like, "No, I'm pretty sure it's not." And then I get there and I'm like, "Oh, this is a cartoon."
There's a scene that for like 2 seconds that I've totally forgot about. There's a scene that for like 2 seconds
20 minutes.
is 2 seconds an animated spider, and I swear I thought my arm was about to get ripped off. I was like.
Because the animated spider was so much more horrifying than what a real spider would have been, because it's larger than life and it's got these crazy eyes that are looking all over the place, and it's just I can't even. And he didn't warn me. Like
I forgot.
Tom knows if there's a spider, he's like, "Spider," and then I cover my eyes, and then he's like, "Okay, spider is gone," and then I can continue, and then we're fine. So, but that being said, if I went to see any Spider-Man movie with someone who loved me enough to give me that courtesy, which clearly John does not.
And then I told her to watch The Witcher, and I totally forgot
about. Oh my God!
The opening
of The
scene.
Witcher. I was like, "Is he fucking kidding me?" I was like, we have gone over and over and over this, and what is
totally
the very first thing? I saw
forgot
John
about
and
the
Ann, and I was like,
opening
"John, are you serious? Are you serious? Really? The Witcher?" And he was like, "What?" And I go, the first fight scene that he gets into with a fucking spider."
I totally
really?
forgot.
Oh my God. It was like every worst nightmare literally nightmares that I have had. Anyway, back to Zendaya. This has nothing to do with me. Yeah. She really is, as Rob said, carving out this incredible career, not just in, these big tentpole movies that are, have a lot of fan followings, but also doing a show like Euphoria, which kind of comes out of nowhere and shows a completely different side of her that she carries on her own, and really is developing a career that she is establishing a lot of respect for, as well as gaining a wide audience. So yeah, I say power to her. Good for her.
All right, guys, question is, what do you think about this? Apparently they're saying they're moving ahead with Spider-Man 3. They got their launch date. What do you think about Zendaya coming back? Jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. Also, a little side thing. I'm pulling a curveball here because I forgot to ask Erin about this, but we can talk about Lincoln Lawyer, right?
Yeah,
the
sure.
situation there. Mm-hmm. So this was interesting. So for those of you who may not remember from yesterday's show, Erin kind of let everybody know yesterday that there's a new television version of course, the Matthew McConaughey movie Lincoln Lawyer. So there's a new television version coming.
Based on the Michael Connelly book, The Brass, I just forgot the name. The Brass something.
So the book is not a retelling of the Lincoln Lawyer. It's the sequel where he comes back with the other character with like...
Yes.
Does it cross over with Harry Bosch?
Well, no, because Bosch is on another show. I mean, another network.
Yeah, on another network.
Because they did a book.
Yes.
So Anne. Sorry.
So, and also just to, because I know there are people that are already going to be like, wow, how are they doing it? So Michael Connolly, the writer of the book, is actually executive producing the show with David E. Kelley, who's obviously an incredible television icon. And it was one of the only shows that I'm aware of that was already picked up to 13 episodes.
Wow.
For CBS and with I don't know if they announced who's starring in it, so I won't say that. But we were going to shoot the first episode starting on Monday, and then start with the rest of the series in July. So please, sorry, go ahead.
I love those books, by the way. I read that book when it first came out.
All I was going to mention was that Erin, of course, has got a recurring role in the show. She landed a recurring role, and wasn't it today that you guys were going to have?
Yeah, our table. I literally just texted you yesterday and said,
Erin,
"Hey, can I leave early because we have this table read
for Lincoln Lawyer?"
And John was like, "Actually, you know what? Just don't stress about it. Take the day off and go to do the table read." So I'm getting all jazzed about that and getting ready to start filming on Monday. I had my fitting on 2 days ago, lots of beautiful wardrobe. And then the showrunner, Ted Humphrey, called me last night and said, so he was like, what are you doing? And I go, I'm trying to find toilet paper. There's none in Los Angeles. And he goes, well, along those lines, we unfortunately are going to have to cancel our table read for tomorrow. And Warner Brothers has called off all production of all pilots, and I'm assuming films as well. So we are not going to start shooting on Monday. Fortunately, we are in the very advantageous, yes, I'm touching my face, advantageous position of having been picked up to 13. So we're going to shoot our first episode hopefully in June and then just roll right into the series. But it actually really brought up something that Tom and I had a long discussion about last night, which is all the pilots that are supposed to be filming right now that haven't already been shot. Those pilots are probably just going to go away.
Yeah, yet another one of the unfortunate situations that are surrounding about this. But I just thought that was really interesting when you wrote to me about that last night.
And we're still waiting to find out about the other project, the movie,
right?
Because
which we're not telling people about yet,
right? But it is a Warner Brothers property, but it has been shooting already for a couple, at least a month now. So I haven't heard the definitive answer.
And it's not
on
Batman.
That.
For anybody who's wondering if it's Batman, it's not Batman.
It's Batman. It's not Batman.
Great.
Okay.
So we have to talk about how you brought us to the set and we got to meet Pattinson and everything.
Exactly.
That's going to be great. Okay, guys, we do have one more off the top thing here to talk about before we get into anything. And it goes on with the whole situation that's going on with movies getting moved and canceled. One of the movies that Marvel has in production right now is, of course, the new Shang-Chi. And everybody's been very, very excited about it. However, and unfortunately, the director, Destin, he apparently started feeling a little bit ill. And they're saying, it is most likely he does not have COVID-19, but he was extra concerned because he just has a newborn baby right now. And he's like, he went tomorrow and says, I'd like to actually go and get tested and isolate myself while I'm doing it. And Marvel was like, you do that. So Marvel has halted production, at least temporarily, on first unit production. Now, the articles that have been, this is of course come to us from the Hollywood Reporter, they go on to say that second unit production is ongoing. So they're going to continue on with second unit production, and all the post-production work that had already begun, they're going to keep working as well. It's just the primary first unit that is going to be on kind of hiatus for a little bit, probably in as much they say maybe up to a week. So it could be just a couple of days, might be up to a week. So now we're seeing movies that are waiting to be released getting affected, shows and some things that were supposed to start production getting affected, and now we're also seeing movies that are in the midst of production getting affected. Of course, the Elvis biopic that Tom Hanks was a part of and shooting for, that production's obviously been put on hold as well. So the hope here is that he's going to test fine, just like they're expecting him to test fine, and then once he tests fine, they're going to be able to complete the movie and keep moving on with that. Rob, I know this is a movie that it's a Marvel film. A lot of people excited. You've been particularly excited about Shang-Chi. Why have you been that excited about this particular movie? And do you think they're going to be able to wrap this thing up, or do you think this could face further delays?
I'm a huge fan of Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu. The Paul Gulacy, one of my favorite artists, who was on that book in the 70s. I love that run. Doug Mensch went from that into Moon Knight. I'm just a huge fan of the character. It's a really interesting character because in the 70s, Marvel actually licensed characters from other mediums, and Fu Manchu was one of them. Conan the Barbarian was one of them. And the original origin of Shang-Chi is that Fu Manchu is his dad. Of course, they got rid of that. But my main man, Tony Leung, one of my favorite Chinese actors, that man he's like, if I could be a Chinese dude, I'd want to be Tony Leung. He's so cool. He was a John Woo's Hard Boiled. He was in The Mood for Love as the romantic lead. He wore awesome linen suits, living in Hong Kong in the 60s, man. I want to be that dude. He is in Shang-Chi. I can't wait. More American audiences are going to fall in love with that guy. I got a man crush on Tony Leung. I have since he was in Hard Boiled as an undercover operative, and he was going up against Chow Yun-Fat's Tequila. Man, I love that dude, and he's in Shang-Chi. What's not to love, dude? Come on. Tony Leung, my man.
Erin, when you look at this, obviously, hey, newborn babies is as good of a reason as any to put
Absolutely.
production. And I really admire the fact that Marvel was just like, hey, yeah, you put your kid, your family first, blah, blah. Do you think they're going to be able to just keep moving forward now once this part is done, or do you foresee there being more delays, or how do you think this might shake out?
Well, given the fact that they're continuing to do second unit production, that actually gives us a good reason to feel positive about this moving forward. And I'm hoping and assuming that Marvel is going to take the necessary precautions, allowing people to get tested if they need to, maybe even providing tests for the second unit crew, being very cautious. And they're going to go above and beyond to make sure that people are staying safe if they're going to continue having them work. And I think that everybody seems to be making the right decisions in this, and good for him for doing what's best for his family, and also good for Marvel for not only understanding that, but also saying we're going to be able to continue doing these other parts of the project as well and keeping everyone safe.
All right, guys, question is, were you surprised to hear about this? Do you think maybe they should have just had somebody else direct while he's getting things? Do you think it's good that they paused production? Do you think they're going to have any more delays? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with all that down and out of the way, let's now move on to our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them by going anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's absolutely free. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission as a featured topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Russell Amador, who writes, according to the Hollywood Reporter, it looks as if Disney finally decided to pump the brakes on the release of Mulan. Other notable movies under the Disney umbrella that have been delayed include Antlers and New Mutants. There's no crystal ball here, but when will these movies see the light of day now? Does this also mean they may be considering moving the Black Widow movie? All right, well, we'll talk about the Black Widow situation a little bit later. But yes, now it's funny because we were just talking on this show yesterday about, Mulan's already done its world premiere. They are ramping up. We got a press screening coming up in a couple of days. Point of note, I still haven't gotten a notification from Disney that the press screening's been canceled, but I'm expecting that email anytime now. And we were discussing yesterday if we thought it was going to be delayed, and all of us thought it was, but Erin, just want to point out, we all said, what percentage is there that this movie actually opens on time? Chris said only 25%. I said between 25 and 10%, so lower, but Erin said 10% or less. And so there you go. So even though we all thought, we'll give the win on that one to Erin. So Erin gets the win on that one. So here we are now with Mulan being moved. One of the reasons I thought that there is a chance they may move forward, like I thought it was under 25%, but the reason I thought there was a chance was because they knew the situation in China. And they were fine moving ahead with it anyway. So I thought, well, if that's their biggest problem, blah, 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 blah. But it was probably it is the right move for them to delay it at this point. The film, and so I feel bad for it, but it'll get its release date. I don't believe they're going to pull a Fast 9 and push it all the way off to 2021. I don't believe they're going to do that at all. But the film I really feel bad for, and Antlers will be fine. Antlers will be fine whenever they release it. It's a smaller film, and they're going to get their audience wherever they release it, so I'm fine with Antlers. The movie I got to admit I feel really bad for here is New Mutants. Oh my God, the poor folks over at the New Mutants. This will be officially, it feels like the 100th, but I believe officially, this will be the 4th missed release date for New Mutants. 4th time. They filmed this movie over 3 years ago. These kids in this movie don't even look like that anymore. And they don't look like that. It is just when they finally, it goes to Disney. Disney plants their feet. They're saying, now we've got a release date for you. It looked like they were finally going to see the light of day. And now, who knows how long until we actually do get around to seeing this thing. When it comes to Mulan, listen, the advantage for Disney, I think, in canceling this right now, comes from the fact that with everything going on in China, now they can hopefully, fingers crossed, re-coordinate their launch to be more in sync with the launch in China. Because look, I still believe half the reason they made this movie was for the Chinese market. I mean, the Mulan character is a beloved figure in China. So this might actually work out to their advantage a little bit, to do this a little bit of a delay, move this off a little bit more. It's still unfortunate, but it might in the long run be what is best for this particular movie. Rob, you're seeing this situation with Mulan getting moved, New Mutants. There obviously can't be a lot of surprise at this point, but what are your thoughts about it right now? And which of the movies getting moved do you feel the worst for?
Well, I mean, the fact that China is a huge market where they expected Mulan to be big is closed down. They're closed for business as far as movies are concerned. It doesn't surprise me that it's going away. But I have to say, the new TV spots for New Mutants had Ilyana Rasputin use her soul sword. I wanted to see the demon bear is in full view. I'm watching these trailers and I'm like, I've wanted to see this movie. I love the New Mutants. I love Bill Sienkiewicz's artwork in the New Mutants. I've been so excited. We talked about this movie for years. I want to see this movie so bad. And the new TV spots, I'm like, oh my God, she has her soul sword.
They look so good.
They look so good. I'm like, what? And okay, to add insult to injury, for those of you who don't know, the New Mutants was directed by Josh Boone. Do you know what Josh Boone is working on right now? Does anyone know?
I don't. Off the top of my head.
What?
He's making CBS's adaptation of Stephen King's book, The Stand.
I didn't know he was working on that.
Which is about a global pandemic. That wipes out the majority of the world's population, setting up the final battle for good and evil between the remaining humans and Randolph Flagg and his band of merry pranksters in Vegas. The Walking Man, the Walking Dude, Captain Trips devastates the Earth. The whole beginning of that miniseries is about this global pandemic that kills everyone. So Josh Boone's New Mutants doesn't get released because of a pandemic while he finishes his miniseries on CBS All Access, which is based on my favorite book of all time about a global pandemic. I don't know what Josh Boone did in this life, but he's being punished. He's being punished.
Hey, I should bring up here quickly. I was just saying about it, as far as I know, this is literally 15 seconds after I said, I'm just going to assume they're going to cancel the thing. I just got this email from Disney who wrote to me the following. As you know, this has been a rapidly evolving situation, and we wanted to make you aware that we are postponing the release of Mulan, the New Mutants, and Antlers out of an abundance of caution. The March 19th all-media screening, which is the one I was going to go to, of Mulan, has been canceled, and we will reschedule once we have a new date. We truly believe in the movie-going experience, and we look forward to having you at Mulan. When the screening is rescheduled, we will be in touch with a new date once it is announced. So just good timing. Good timing. So they just sent that out, and thank you, Disney, for sending that out. Erin, I mean, again, we talked about a number of films that got delayed yesterday. Mm-hmm. Now we see this, and we specifically were talking about Mulan. Moved. Any surprise here? Good move, bad move? What could be the silver lining? How are you looking at this?
No surprises at all. It's interesting when you talk about Bloodshot, how much money it's potentially going to make this weekend, given that it may be like the only new film that's opening. Disney, obviously, we know they're going to be fine. They're going to be okay. But as we were talking about before we got on camera, a lot of these films that were supposed to premiere at Tribeca that people have worked on so hard, the people in the New Mutants, Josh Boone, for example, which, by the way, I will be very shocked if that miniseries actually comes out.
Oh, it will.
Eventually.
Come on.
Yeah,
Eventually.
At some point it'll
With
come
Contagion, Soderbergh's Contagion rising up the charts, Outbreak, people are going back to Wolfgang Petersen's Outbreak.
Right. Yeah, okay. But look at remember Phone Booth?
Yeah.
The Chris Evans movie that they had to push it because there was a shooter situation, and then there was that show with Ryan Phillippe about a lone shooter as well. Shooter was what it was called, I believe. That kept getting pushed and pushed and pushed. I don't know. I mean, we have our movies like Outbreak that we have grown to love, but then something new. I don't know. I'll be interested to see if this Stephen King miniseries actually does make it to
It's so
air.
good. The book is so good, though.
But I also, I feel bad for the actors and for the people who worked on New Mutants specifically, because a lot of times, as an actor, people don't necessarily always know this. Your next thing is what everybody is like, okay, that's going to be the thing that launches whatever is next for your career. For me, I was working, and then all of a sudden I did 2 episodes of Mad Men. And once that came out, it changed the trajectory of my career, and I was seen in a different way. But until these things come out, a lot of times people they want to see your work, especially if you are a younger actor, like most of the actors in New Mutants are. And so a lot of these actors, they're going to go on to other things, but they're waiting for this project to come out. And a lot of people that are involved in it, this project is the thing that's going to propel them to the next thing. So I really feel bad for everybody that's involved in it, and I hope that they're able to move on to things that don't involve pandemics.
What you're saying is absolutely true, and you think about somebody like Maisie Williams, who was on an upward trajectory. Game of Thrones ended. I mean, she was hoping this movie would plot, like you said, the next stage of her career, and she's kind of been stalled out.
Yeah, it's all about momentum.
She's got a new little movie coming out on Netflix now.
Right.
She's
had a couple things like the Eye Boy.
Yeah, but
or
nothing
whatever.
I've heard of or had any buzz or that I've seen for certain. Anyway, guys, the question is for you. How do you feel about this? Good move, bad move? Do you think this could have some long-term benefits to making a move like this? Maybe some downside? What are you guys thinking about it right now? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our second main topic today. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Baron Greg, who writes, "Hey, John, I was reading a story about that deep fake video of Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr. going around, and in it, Holland says that there have actually been real discussions about doing a Back to the Future reboot. Could something like this actually happen? Should it? And what do you think?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, amidst all the hoopla around those deep fakes that went out about, by the way, I'm pretty much over the deep fake stuff, but still, amongst all the hoopla that went out and around surrounding the Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr. deep fakes of Doc Brown and Marty from Back to the Future, in all that, Tom Holland actually said something that I don't know that he was ever supposed to say, but he said the following. He said, "I'd be lying if I said there hadn't been conversations in the past about doing some sort of remake talking about Back to the Future. But that film is the most perfect film, or one of the most perfect films, one that couldn't be made better." So that's coming from Tom Holland. Now, the interesting part in there to me, obviously, is the part where he's saying, yeah, these discussions have happened. This has gone on. At some point, somebody from a studio actually had this idea, let's do a remake of Back to the Future, and got so far as, let's talk to some potential talent. That's how far these conversations went. It wasn't just, because narrowed down to the confines of the four walls of an executive office in a studio, millions of conversations happen. But it's only a certain percentage of those conversations that move on to the next stage where you actually reach out and start talking to some talent and saying, hey, if we did this, what would you think about this? And guess what? In Hollywood, ideas don't die. Sometimes they go into hibernation. Sometimes they go on vacation. Sometimes they go missing and don't get heard from decades. But basically speaking, ideas don't die in this town. It'll resurface at some point. And so we know now, because of what Tom Holland is saying, that there have been, at least at some point, a studio had interest in actually doing Back to the Future again. And I'm going to tell you right now, and this will be the unpopular opinion, I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Boo.
I'm all for it. I'm all for it. And everybody should be all for it. And I will tell you why. Because of the same thing I say all the time about remakes in general. It has been statistically proven that when a reboot or a remake of a movie comes out, interest in the original film goes up. That is the worst possible thing that happens from a reboot coming out. The absolute worst scenario. The worst thing that can happen is interest in the original film goes up. Do you know how many more people saw the actual original Asian version of The Ring when the North American version came out? It skyrocketed. Do you know how many more people have actually seen the greatest cop movie of all time, Infernal Affairs, as a result of The Departed coming out? Now, The Departed's a bad example because that was also a great movie in its own right that won Best Picture at the Academy Awards. But if a reboot gets made, if they make another Back to the Future, and I would say this, and we mentioned this on yesterday's show, Erin. Mm-hmm. If you do a reboot of Back to the Future, don't set it in the 80s and then going back to the 90s again.
Right.
There's no part of that. Because the brilliance of that movie was it took place in modern day and then a time shift. Do it, if you're going to reboot it, set it in the 2020s and then have them go back to the 80s or something. I mean, that would be an interesting new take on it. And if the movie's good, great. We have another new film to love and adore. And it'll just bring more attention to the original as well. And if the movie sucks, oh well, no harm, no foul, no worse than any other movie comes out that sucks. There's just no legitimate, tangible reason not to do it. Now, am I saying they should do it, Rob? Am I saying they should go out there and make a Back to the Future reboot? And if I was in charge of a studio, I probably wouldn't. But I have no problem if they do decide to do it. Now, of course, it brings up another question, Rob. We know the writer of the film, and I keep forgetting the name of the writer of the film.
Back to the Future?
Yeah.
Bob Gale.
Who's one of the guys who holds rights to it. And Bob Gale has said in the past, from my cold, dead hands, will you pry the rights to doing a remake and a reboot out of this? Now, of course, minds can change. We know that. But Bob Gale has said before, there's no chance in hell that as long as I live, you will do another one. But if conversations at a studio got to a point where they're even talking to talent, you have to believe that there must have been some sort of concession in there. But I don't know. Now we're getting into wild speculation. But Rob, I think Tom Holland probably said exactly what you would say. It's as close to a perfect movie as you can get. Why bother making it? First of all, what do you think about the fact that there have been discussions? And do you think this could ever happen? And then the third part is, although I know your answer is, how would you feel about them doing it?
Look, first of all, I should say I'm not against the idea of remakes. I think it's interesting when other countries remake other films. Like, for instance, Yojimbo and Sanjuro were remade as for a fistful of dollars and a few dollars more with Clint Eastwood. Departed was Infernal Affairs. I like that. Our Ring was different than Ringu, the Japanese version.
Yeah, it was.
I like that. I like seeing different cultures' interpretations of movies. The Japanese remade Clint Eastwood's Forgiven as a samurai movie. So it's interesting. But to me, Back to the Future, there's I think a remake threshold that what can you bring to the property that'll be new? Like John Carpenter's The Thing. Vastly different from the original 50s The Thing. Went back to the original short story. Very different movie. Worked really well. Philip Kaufman's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Updating of the 50s version. Great. David Cronenberg's The Fly. Incredible film. Very different from the original The Fly. I think that's okay. if they said Back to the Future was about Marty McFly going back, falling in love with his mother, and realizing he had an Oedipal complex the whole time, and stayed with his mother in the past, and they had some psychosexual relationship, I'm like, yeah, man, I'll watch that shit. Show me that movie. But, if you're just going to go, then you get Colin Farrell in the remake of Total Recall, which they don't even go to Mars. Or you get a remake of RoboCop, which wasn't a bad movie.
It was actually not bad.
But you look at it and you're like, wouldn't you have... I mean, Padilla, the director of the RoboCop movie, made the Elite Force, or Elite Squad, these Brazilian movies that kick ass. They bring him to America and they're like, you're going to do RoboCop. And it's like, this guy's amazingly talented and he's going to remake Verhoeven's RoboCop? And where did his career go after that? Not very far.
But it was a decent movie.
It was a decent
Michael
movie.
Keaton was really good in it.
He was really good in it, but I'm like, it was unnecessary. And they could have made something original, utilizing the talents of all the people involved, and made something new and one for the ages. Give me an Oedipal Back to the Future, I'll watch it. It's not...
But that comes back to the thing we saw all the time. There are more original films that get made today than any other time in Hollywood history. I mean, so it's not like...
It's true.
It's not like, by making that movie... it stopped another original movie. That's not the case. Tons of original movies get made. But, I mean, can they work out? But, you point out, look, sometimes, a remake and a reboot and a new attempt can actually become even better. Like, I think The Fly. was better than the original.
Way better.
I think, you mentioned a couple as well. And then they can also be...
The Blob remake is really good.
But some can be absolute crap. I mean, there's no denying that. Some can be absolutely terrible, but I don't know. It'd be interesting, but there is no denying. I think even a lot of people who are okay with the idea of reboots, there are certain films, though, when come up in conversation that do have an air of, wait a minute, that one should be untouchable. And as weird as it is to think of it, I think Back to the Future is probably on that same shelf right beside The Godfather for a lot of people. So it would be... Oh, yeah.
Raiders.
So it would be really, really challenging for them to do it. Aaron, you hear about this, that they have actually had discussions that this could happen. Do you think there's a chance they could, like sometime with, the next 5 years, that they could actually make one of these things? And if so, how would you feel about it?
Well, let's be clear when we talk about having discussions. It's not like, because as you acknowledge, there are the, within the four walls of the studio, many things are lobbed about, blah, blah, blah. But, when you're at the status of Tom Holland as an actor, it's not like they're talking about these potential properties and then developing these properties and then going to Tom Holland's people and saying, we'd like to take a meeting with him in order to discuss a potential to do this other Back to the Future. They're in a meeting, they're hanging out, they're throwing a bunch of ideas around. They're also, talking to him about, what are your favorite movies? What influenced you growing up? And blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, Back to the Future gets brought up. Oh my gosh, what would be really fun if we did another Back to the Future and you played Marty McFly, blah, 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 the conversation goes on.
Yeah.
I can totally see that being the way that it was, brought up. Because he does say, I'm not, I would be lying if I said it hadn't come up. But he didn't say, I took a meeting to discuss this possible movie. This was not something that they said, we need to talk to you specifically about this property.
We don't know that it wasn't.
Oh, well, okay. All right, I'll
we
give you
don't know that it was.
Right. The way
either.
that he phrases it, I get the idea that it was just sort of one of those things in the same way that in one of those meetings, somebody say something about Julia Roberts playing
Harriet
Tubman. It's like these
one of the dumbest things ever.
These crazy things get brought up. But well, first of all, Robert, though, you can't have Marty McFly with an Oedipal complex with his mom where they actually do get together, because then he's just going to dissolve. And he would probably dissolve at like the most inappropriate
but that's the climax
time.
of the movie. No pun
intended.
No pun intended.
That's only one version. That's only the version of time travel presented in the original Back to the Future. Since we're remaking it, it could be an alternate universe.
Yeah, they could pull a Marvel sort of thing.
Yeah,
and then alternate.
But that's very astute of you to say.
Let me ask
because
a lot of people.
But also one of the things. Okay, and yesterday I was on board with the idea of a 2020 Marty McFly going back to the 90s. I like your idea about him going back to the 80s a lot better, because going back to the 50s, there was a certain sense of utopia of in the world that was presented.
Of
it was
American culture.
And, this Pleasantville kind of thing. And the 80s was such a wild time of excess and bright colors and just so much
Man, you know
so
what?
much consuming of capitalism, whereas the 90s, which I'm a child of the 90s, and I think of grunge and Nirvana and Pearl Jam and just hiding in the basement, and I don't think that's exact. I don't think going back to the 90s would be as fun and flavorful as going back to the 80s would be in a remake.
You just gave me a great idea. I want to see a kid of today going back to the time less than zero. Rich Beverly Hills, coke addicted, disaffected. So you got some middle class kid from a good home in middle America, goes back to Beverly Hills of 1987, total excess, just becomes just a drug addict, and he has to save the future.
Meets the Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, he can't. He starts doing gay tricks and to make money, and the whole future depends on him saving the past, and he can't do it because he's just fallen into this horrible. It'd be a great indie film. Get Karen Kusama to direct it. It'd be like the Destroyer version of Back to the Future. I'd love it.
And then there would be something poetic too about going from like the 1920s to the 80s instead of the 90s, because that's when the
2020s.
To the 80s, because that's when the original Back to the Future started. So there's something poetic about that too. So I mean, then you can make an argument with that, then have a little bit of a Hot Tub Time Machine feel, probably, but I don't see that as a bad thing. I love the first Hot Tub Time Machine.
And also, I feel like people love time travel movies. They love the way. What?
But you're right. A lot of people do.
Yeah, I love time travel.
I'm not big on time travel. Back to the Future and Star Trek: The Voyage Home are two giant exceptions for me. Those are two big exceptions. So I will make an exception for Back to the Future.
The Jetsons?
That's not time travel. That's just set in the future.
That is true.
I mean, there might have been a time travel episode of that. I'm not sure.
They go back to the Flintstones.
We need to move on. So listen, guys, question is for you. Do you think that at some point, understanding that, a lot of big properties, they love to remake them in Hollywood, do you think that at some point we could get a remake of Back to the Future? And then how do you feel about that? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our third main topic today. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Ewan Callister, who writes, so, Fast 9 and A Quiet Place 2 both suffered delays due to the coronavirus pandemic. Now I'm seeing a lot of talk about Black Widow being the next major release to be delayed. Do you think this is likely, or will Disney/Marvel stick to their guns and keep its May release date? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, in the flood in the last number of days of things that have been delayed, obviously James Bond was the first big high-profile one to make that move. Then Vin Diesel said, we're not moving Fast 9. 48 hours later, they moved Fast 9. Of course, now we've got Mulan, we just talked about, New Mutants, Quiet Place 2, my most anticipated film of the year. Rob, now that you and me both had our most anticipated films of the year movies moved. So there you go. So that's the situation we're in. Conspicuous by its absence in any of these discussions, though, is the not too far off Black Widow. They did not announce the moving of Black Widow. I can tell you this, I can tell you for fact that there have been very high-level discussions about moving Black Widow at Disney, so I can tell you that. But as of this point, they have not made a decision to move it. Now, with the speed at which decisions are being made today, 10 minutes after this show ends, we could hear an announcement that they're moving it. But they did not lump that in with the announcements of they're moving their other films, including the Mulan one, which I just got an email about. So they did not lump that in. Black Widow, I think, for them, represents a much bigger investment. I mean, Mulan is obviously a huge investment, but I mean, with the China thing already being what it is and all that kind of stuff as well. This is their MCU. This is the MCU to them. And so I think they're going to want to approach this with even more caution than they do with the other ones. And I think they know that, listen, we don't have a lot of time, but when it comes to Black Widow and it comes to the release date of Black Widow, we've got a little bit of time here. So instead of us jumping the proverbial gun and pulling a trigger on something that maybe we won't have to do, let's be a little bit more patient and let's see what happens. If we see things turn around, like we're starting to see in certain parts of the world, but it feels like right now we're still on the uptick instead of the demilitarizing, if you will, of this whole situation. But if for whatever reason we start to see things turn around, then Disney, they haven't pulled anything out. They haven't let the dominoes start to fall. They're still in an okay position. They can move forward. If it doesn't, then no harm, no foul. They can announce at any time that they want to move the date. So I don't think Black Widow not being announced as one of the films moving is a sign that, oh, then they're just going to keep it. I think they very well still could move it. I just see Disney as wanting to be patient, keep their options open at this point, and then they'll make a decision as they get a little bit closer to it. Erin, you're seeing this whole situation starting to play out. Do you think Disney has already made up in their mind? Like, do you think it makes sense to say, hey, if they're announcing the delay of Mulan and New Mutants, if they were going to delay Black Widow, they just would have thrown it in there? Or do you think they're just keeping their options open? Do you think it's inevitable they're going to delay it? How are you seeing this?
What was the original release date?
It's May, is it not?
Yeah, it's May.
It's May.
Yeah, they're holding on. They're waiting to see how everything plays out. Obviously with Mulan, that's supposed to open next weekend, not this coming weekend, but May 27th,
yeah.
March 27th. And then with New Mutants, that was supposed to open the weekend after. I think right now there's no reason for them to make an announcement. Why would they need to? How does that affect anyone's lives other than the people that are directly involved with the movie and obviously the theaters at some point? But, I think we still have time. As you said, decisions are being made moment by moment. I mean, I just got a text message, the movie that I'm supposed to be doing, that we were literally just saying will probably get pushed. I just found out because of the rain. I'm shooting on Monday. So I'm like, oh, okay, great.
So they're moving forward.
They are moving forward.
That is great. I'm very excited for
I'm
your
very
movie,
excited
by the way.
too. So we're going to have some really fun stuff to talk about on Thursday's show next week. But that being said, I could get a text message tomorrow saying, oh, never mind. We really don't know. This is uncharted territory. We've never been in this situation before. The studios have never been in this situation before. And obviously, as you established, Black Widow is a big property for them. And so to go ahead and make a premature announcement of we're going to push it to when? We don't know. We're going to see how things play out for the rest of March, how things play out into April. And if by the beginning of April, this thing has not slowed down or come to a place where people feel comfortable going back to the movie theaters, then they'll make an announcement. But I think it's at this point premature for them to say anything about it.
Rob, you're seeing this whole situation. Were you surprised when they announced the list of films that they're closing, that Disney specifically said they're closing? They didn't include Black Widow in that? Do you think they're going to stay the course, just release it? Do you think they're just playing their cards close to? How do you see this working out?
I think they're waiting to see what's going to happen. They're 45 days out. I mean, if this because of the world's precautions and if this thing burns out pretty quickly, there's going to be a lot of open slots for summer movies that need to be filled quickly. And I think Black Widow, they've really ramped up the marketing campaign. They've dropped a new trailer. They've got their momentum going into this. The tracking is huge on it. And 45 days is a long time. I mean, remember 45 days ago, nobody had ever heard of this virus. So they're waiting to see what's going to happen. And they've shown that they can pull a movie from release in a little over a week if they have to. So I think they're, like you had said, Erin, they're probably going to play their cards close to their vest and hold off and see. There's a huge investment in this movie. It's Marvel coming back after the whole Infinity Saga is over. Lots riding on it. They want to make sure that they give it the best opportunity to succeed that it can get. So I think they're waiting. I think it'll probably end up being canceled. But I think we'll find out mid-April. There's no reason for them to make a decision now.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that speaks to that is the fact that you look at what happened with Universal and Fast and Furious 9. They move the release date and they announce the next release date, not until 2021. I don't know why. But Disney announces they're pulling Mulan, New Mutants, Antlers off the release schedule, and they're not announcing another release date. So they're keeping their options open. I think that's speaking to what you guys are saying. I think that kind of leans into that. Question here is, guys, what do you think is going to happen with Black Widow? Do you think we're just going to have to wait and see how this whole thing rides out? If they move it, how far do you think they're going to move it? Is this the right move? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 4. And our fourth and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Omar94, who writes, with the coronavirus delaying several movies, will theaters lose money from lack of attendance? A Quiet Place 2, Fast 9, and No Time to Die are some of the most anticipated movies this year, not to mention Mulan and Antlers and New Mutants, but are now pushed back months up to a year. I feel this will cause a financial loss as audiences must wait longer for the movies they were interested in seeing. Thanks, and bring on the filthy. All right, thanks for sending that in, Omar. And I think one of the things that we have not been discussing, because we've been talking about how does this affect shooting schedules? How does this affect release schedules? How is this going to affect the studios? How might this affect the actors? We're just talking about some of the New Mutants actors who are waiting for this big project to come out to help their careers and things like that. One of the organizations we have not been talking about, one of the levels of all this that we have not been discussing is the movie theaters. It's the movie theaters. And it's a punch to the crotch on two different levels. Ball punch number one is the profile of the movies that are no longer coming out right now. Now listen, movie theaters right now, they show all types of movies, but what pays the bills are the big high profile films. Those are what pay the bills for them. Movies like Fast 9, No Time to Die, Quiet Place, New Mutants, Mulan. It's these types of movies that movie theaters have been waiting to come out so they can hit their theaters, so they can fill their theaters up, sell lots of popcorn, sell lots of soda, pay everybody's salary, and keep the lights on in the place. All these films you see listed here have now been delayed. And the only one we really know when they are coming out, No Time to Die and Fast 9, those are months, a year away, almost a year away. Now, Quiet Place, Mulan, these are big projects. Big projects. Ball punch number two. So the left nut has been sufficiently battered. Now let's move on to the right nut as it gets sufficiently battered. On top of all that, just the fact that on yesterday's John Campea Show, we did a poll for the question of the day asking, hey guys, how many of you are still going to the theater as normal? How many of you are going to go a little bit less right now? And how many of you are just not going to go to the theater until this whole health thing passes? A full 35% of you guys said that you are not going to the movie theaters anymore until this situation passes. On top of that 35%, another 30% said that we're going to still go, but we're going to go less. That's 65% of you are saying, at least on some level, your habit of going to the movie theaters is going to be impacted severely, moderately, but impacted one way or the other. So now you've got a movie theater industry that has these big high profile projects that are not opening in their theaters when they thought they were. You also got over half of the movie going audience saying, we're at least going to go less, maybe not at all until this thing opens. What I think a lot of people forget about, is that movie theaters are not high margin profitable businesses. We may think they are. Believe me when I tell you, they are not. Movie theaters are a razor thin margin business, which basically means when you look at all the money they take in versus the amount of money they have to spend to do business, the profit margin is small. And you'd be forgiven for not realizing that, because a lot of times now it feels like palaces we walk into in some of these movie theaters. That's because they need to give us as the audience that kind of an experience. Some feel like rat holes, but some feel like palaces and resorts and an amusement park of movies, right? But that costs a lot of money. And as somebody who used to work for the biggest movie theater chain in the world, I can tell you that their profit margin is small. It's small. Guys, I don't feel that it's hyperbole at all to say when you've got an operating business whose margins are already that small to begin with, and you get hit with the 1-2 punch of, number one, a big chunk of people aren't coming to the movie theaters right now at all. And on top of that, even the ones who do want to come to the theaters, these big movies aren't going to be there now. I don't believe it is hyperbole at all to say that this is catastrophic. This is catastrophic for the movie theaters. Absolutely. Now, understanding we're using the term catastrophic in the terms and in the context of talking about the movie industry. I understand. A meteor hitting a school full of children, that's catastrophic. I get that. But we're talking about our little sphere here, okay? And within those terms, within that sphere, I don't believe it's hyperbole to say this is going to be catastrophic for them. You're going to see a lot of smaller theaters go out of business. I'm telling you right now, there are going to be smaller theaters that cannot pay their bills, that cannot cover their property taxes, that can't do the upkeep. You're going to see a lot of people in movie theaters losing their jobs. There are going to be layoffs because the money is not there. And this is going to hurt them. And I'm going to tell you what, when this whole situation gets under control, the negative effects of this situation are going to be felt by the movie theaters a hell of a lot longer. And it's going to be bad for these guys. It's going to be bad. And listen, it's going to be bad for a lot of people. It's going to be bad for a lot of people. You know, Ann and I were in a restaurant last night. No, sorry, it wasn't Ann and I. Our buddy Cliff and I were in a restaurant yesterday. Not nearly as many people in that restaurant as there was normally. So you know they're getting hurt.
Yeah.
You know, I think the only business that's going to boom right now is toilet paper manufacturing and delivery services,
Which is so weird.
which is going to, those industries are going to explode right now. But there's a lot of industries and a lot of hurt. But within our context, we're talking about the movie theaters. It's going to hurt them a lot. Rob, you look at the situation. Understandably, what we as fans see and talk about most prominently, of course, is the movies themselves that we see. But the underlying damage is being done by this whole situation. I don't even think it can be calculated yet. Anyway, what are your thoughts on this whole thing?
Well, like you said, it's catastrophic. I mean, any business that relies on even look, whether you love Disney or like Disney or whatever, or don't like Disney, they closed Disneyland.
For only the fourth time in history.
Only fourth time in history. Now, Disney, I think in a baller move, has said they're going to pay their people through at least March.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, that's amazing. A movie theater, like you said, can't afford to do that. There's nothing else they can do. These are huge pieces of real estate that literally are now empty, that require, I mean, they already have enough problems making money during the week. You know, they do predominantly most of their business, well, Thursday nights now, but Thursday night through Sunday night, and they don't have that. So if a movie theater is closed for a month, how do they pay their rent? You know, I mean, I'm sure there's insurance prices, but this is affecting many levels of society. There's a lot of people that are in a world of hurt. Teachers, if they're not teaching remotely. I mean, people who live paycheck to paycheck. So many people do in the United States. It's not good for anybody. So movie theaters, and then like John said, when are they going to recover? When does the summer movie season start now? July? I mean, how do you survive the rest of March, April, and May and June? If
and then you're just
out?
digging out. Then once the summer, even if the summer movie happens on schedule, they're just spending all that time digging themselves out of the hole, trying to get out of that hole. It's a harsh situation. And Erin, you know, when people aren't going to see the movies at the theaters, there's no money flowing to the studios. Mm-hmm. When studios aren't getting their money, projects that could be happening aren't happening. When projects that could be happening aren't happening, actors aren't getting work. Gaffers aren't getting work. Cinematographers aren't getting work. I mean, there's a huge domino effect going on here.
I have to say, there's somebody I know named Ben David Grabinski, a friend of mine. He had a film that was his first feature premiering at Tribeca. That was gone, and he had a greenlit project that he tweeted. That went away too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, all the people
he loses twice.
All the people. I mean, my role on Lincoln Lawyers is, recurring character. It wasn't going to be a huge payday for me. Great opportunity. Very excited about it. But I was like, okay, cool. That'll be a nice thing to do. But I'm thinking about the people who have been working in pre-production on that show and every other pilot for months. People that were planning on being able to pay their property taxes, which are due pretty soon. People that were banking on this and now not only can't look forward to that job, but there are no other jobs. I was at the grocery store last night trying to buy toilet paper. I got a lot of cat food, so I guess that's what Tom and I might be eating at some point. But I mean, if you go on my Instagram, I posted photos from like the bean and rice aisle, the tuna can aisle. Like it is definitely something's happening in LA, and it's not good. And I was sort of joking with the guy that was checking me out of the grocery store. I said, I think you're probably one of the only people in this town that has any job security. He gave me a few free Luna bars, so that was pretty nice for it. But it really is. You think about people who are Uber drivers and drive for DoorDash and deliveries. A lot of people are not, a lot of people are eating from home, eating at home now. A lot of people are just completely changing their lifestyles. And what we need to look at, as you were saying, John, this is going to have long-term effects. The S&P 500 dropped yesterday, the largest drop since Black Monday of 1987. And, for people that don't follow the stock market and say, oh, well, that doesn't apply to me, it actually does, because that represents all the 500 biggest companies, that we have, and what their forecasts are looking like. And everybody's going to be tightening their belts. And it's going to change things a lot for everyone. Anyone who thinks, well, I'm not going to be affected by this, you're wrong. It's going to affect the entire economy, and we should not panic, but we should just start taking precautions and, and figuring out, okay, not only what can I do to keep my family safe and healthy, but also what can I do to make sure that I'm going to be able, to pay my rent or to pay my bills coming up in the next couple of months. And that means that we're going to have to sacrifice in other ways. And what does that mean? That means that the economy is unfortunately going to suffer. And with the people who, not only the theaters, but, the kid who's just trying to make some money in their first job working as a vendor, selling popcorn, all of those people, they're not going to be able to hire as many of those people. The people, taking tickets, it's really just going to affect the restaurant in the ArcLight. That restaurant's probably going to be shut down pretty soon.
Well, just like you said, my girlfriend Elizabeth's daughter, Sophie, her first job was working at the LA Zoo. A job that she loved, a job that allowed her, she got her first paychecks and she was saving some money, and now it's gone. It doesn't mean she was fired, but how long is the zoo going to be closed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look at the writers. I mean, this reminds me of the writers' strike, actually. Yeah. For those of us who are old enough and were around to remember it, when the writers' strike happened, it destroyed the television industry for a long time. And there were people who lost their homes. There were shows that were, the Sarah Connor Chronicles was a really big show at the time. And then everything went on hiatus. And a lot of these shows that were super popular just didn't come back. They lost their momentum. And, success in this business, as with many as with many industries, relies on momentum. And when you cut that momentum, especially all the marketing dollars that have been spent for some of these movies that now are indefinitely suspended, that's money you're never going to get back. It's been spent. It's done. And that momentum doesn't exist anymore when you try to bring these movies back into the theater.
Nope.
So question is, guys, what do you think about this whole situation? Are you it's completely understandable if you haven't thought about, yeah, man, what's this going to do to the movie theaters? And what's this going to do for the chain of things there? It'd be totally understandable if you hadn't thought about that, because we are more concerned with the movies we're actually seeing. But now that you're thinking about it, what are your thoughts on it? Jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With all that down and out of the way, we're now going to move on and take your live questions. And listen, there are two ways you can send in live questions. Way number one, use the tip link. You can see the tip link in the top line of the description of this video, and you can send those in anytime 24/7. If we don't get it to it on this show, it'll be one of the first ones answered on the next show. Or you can just use the super chat feature there. Now, before we get to those live questions that you guys have been sending in, we're going to do as we do every day. We're going to take a short 4-minute break here, give ourselves a chance to stretch our legs, rest the vocal cords, refill our drinks, give you a chance to run and use the bathroom yourself. So if you guys will hang tight with us, we will be right back. back. Thank you, everybody, for your patience and indulgence as we refilled our drinks, stretched our legs a little bit. Now let's move on and start taking your guys' live questions. We're going to start things off here with 50 Shades of Geek, who writes, I just came out of Bloodshot. It's a good thing I went in with low expectations because I actually liked it. It was decent with great action and questionable CGI at times. Weak character development, but Vin Guy, Isa, I never knew how to pronounce Isa's name, and I've loved her ever since she was in Baby Driver. Anyway, and Lamorne were great in it. Yeah, listen, it's not getting great reviews. It's not getting great reviews, but it's close to 50%. So that means there are going to be some people that go and watch it and like it. Some people don't. But you're probably right, 50 Shades. That's one of the benefits sometimes of going into something with low expectations. That sometimes you can come out being pleasantly surprised. And I'm looking forward to seeing it myself. 50 also writes, the biggest disappointment was seeing the theater almost empty on a Thursday night. Movie theaters in Israel aren't that full to begin with, but never like this. I'm getting worried, that damn virus. And yeah, like that's what we're saying, like earlier, like on this show, we did that poll, and I knew some people would say they weren't going to go at all, but a full 35% of you guys said you weren't going at all, and that's significant. And so, yeah, 50 Shades, I think it's going to be one of the experiences. I mean, you won't have problems finding a seat, I suppose, though. All right, Edgar Navarro writes, hey, John, hope your day is going well. Today is my birthday, and as I turn 25, I only have one question for you. What was the funniest moment or the finest moment of the John Campea Show? Destroying your headphones in a blind rage, or not wearing pants during the show and us seeing your underwear? So for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, so I'm not going to lie. I'll tell you straight up. I'm proud of this, damn it. One of the advantages of working from home is I can not wear pants if I don't want to. And this is going back. Oh, this is going back a little ways. But yeah, it was true. There was a good months I just did the show without pants. Because I mean, I did it by myself, right? So I was doing it from home. I did the show without pants. And then when you do it for so long, you forget that you're not wearing any pants.
When you say no pants, were you freeballing?
No. So I still
not even once.
No, I still had the cage on. I still had the boxer briefs on. So somebody asks about a toy behind me. I'm like, oh yeah. So I turn and reach for the toy, and as I do, you just get to see my waist, and I'm sitting there in my skivvies, right? And sure enough, somebody screen captured that shit. That got screen captured.
Can we see a shot?
I don't know that it's around somewhere.
Hey, if somebody loves me, they will put it on Twitter and at Erin Cummings.
So, Erin, when you coined the phrase for our Thursday show, No Pants Thursdays.
Was that me?
That was actually you that coined that. Oh, yes.
I was wondering where that came from.
Oh,
I didn't even know.
You. Oh, it was you. I still remember.
Oops.
But you were more accurate than you thought, because it might have even been on a Thursday that happened. So, there you go, guys.
But what's your finest moment? Is that your finest moment?
That's clearly the most embarrassing one. That was clearly the most embarrassing one.
You don't sound too embarrassed about it. You sound actually quite proud of it.
No, I mean, look, I was so embarrassed when somebody
in the moment, sure.
When somebody, I didn't even realize it in the moment. It wasn't until after I was done the show and somebody sent me the screenshot. I'm like, oh my god.
Well, because if you're going to be seen in your underwear, you want to make sure there's the right lighting, the right angle, that you're controlling the narrative. You know, you want it to be the Kim Kardashian version of your sex tape.
Yeah, at least my Adonis statue of David ass muscles came through really nice and seen. I was very proud of that. But
nice.
Anyway, no. Let's move on here. We got to keep moving here. Let's see. Thank you for that, Edgar, for that humbling reminder. All right. Willow writes, I think the reason why people are watching Contagion over Outbreak right now is that the movie has a more realistic feel and more closely resembles what's currently happening. Sadly, I doubt we'll have a vaccine anytime soon. Actually, news just came out that a vaccine may be coming out of the University of Saskatchewan, which that's very proud to hear. But yes, the other thing I believe, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Contagion is on Netflix, and I don't believe Outbreak is. Somebody mentioned that to me the other day. Is that true? Do you know?
I think you're actually right about that. Would you believe that I own both on Blu-ray?
I don't. I'm shocked.
I would absolutely believe you own both on Blu-ray.
I also have to say, Contagion, when they peel Gwyneth Paltrow's face off her skull, when they drill it, that still is one of my favorite makeup effects ever done in any movie. It's so good.
And listen, I wanted to mention this before I forget, and believe me, I am not bringing this up to start a fight between me and Robert. But so yesterday, I wanted to mention this in the light of the coronavirus stuff and blah blah. Somebody, I got through and I watched a new episode of Picard yesterday.
Here it comes.
No. So, and only for what to set up what I'm going to say next, I will let you know, I loved the episode. I thought it was great. So I got on Twitter and I wrote, I quoted something from the show, from that episode, and I said, God, I'm loving the show and blah, blah, blah. Somebody got on that tweet and replied to it and said something very, I think, poignant. They said, I just can't feel hyped about anything right now with the coronavirus going on, right? And I think that that's something that a lot of people can relate to. I think a lot of people can relate to that right now, saying, it's very tough for me to get excited about something when this crisis is going on at the moment. And I think that's something. But it made me think of something, guys, about, I read that and I sat back in my sofa and I thought about it. And I thought, to me, though, that just highlights again the magnificence and the power of stories. The magnificence and the power of stories. Because I remember thinking, in the midst of all this, I'm able to watch a story, whether it's a great movie, a television show, whatever. I'm able to watch a story and momentarily be transported from whatever garbage is going on in my life or our collective lives. But then when I came out of the story, not only now I was back in the garbage, but I had a renewed optimism. I had a different outlook on things. My mind just felt like it was creatively refreshed, and it just let me look at the world, my personal situations, the global situations, from a little bit of a different perspective. It doesn't fix my problems. It doesn't fix the world's problems. But I remember after watching, watching a story and feeling great and uplifted and wonderful, and then getting reminded very accurately by somebody who wrote in saying it's just hard for me, and made me realize again just how awesome the power of storytelling is in their greatest forms, in the medium of television or movies and things like that. And it just made me feel like it is times like this that I'm actually most grateful. Most grateful that we have these outlets, guys, and that we have people like Robert Meyer Burnett who actually help make these stories. And we have some like an Erin Cummings who performs in these stories and things like that. It just makes me even more grateful for the movies and the entertainment and that kind of stuff, because it's not just an escape, it's a refreshment. I feel rejuvenated. Anyway, Rob, Picard episode aside, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm still worried about Space Legolas, who's been stuck in the same corridor in Picard for multiple episodes, fighting off hordes of Romulans who can't seem to, I don't know what the hell's going on. But that's a story for my own show. I'll keep it off this show. But I think you know what, John, to second what you said, I've always believed that the cinema and television as well, but this was a technology that didn't exist in any other time in history. It began in the late 19th century, but really the 20th century was the century of movies and TV. And I don't think there's any better way. I've said this many times on my show, but the great power of storytelling, and unfortunately not right now, but you get people from all walks of life. Doesn't matter what their color is, what their religious background is, what their sexuality is, whatever their gender identification is, whatever it is, they'll all come together in a room. And the lights will dim, and they will forget themselves, and they will look up on that screen, and they will be captivated and taken away somewhere. And it's a time when all humanity is unified, enjoying a story. What other medium can do that? We have symphonies and we have ballets, but movies they cost less, so they're open to everyone for the most part, and we will turn ourselves over to a story. Everybody will, whether somebody's telling you a story, your friend's telling you a joke, or whether you're sitting around a campfire. And stories are important and they matter. And the fact that we celebrate this great entertainment medium is a great thing. And during these times of trouble, where do we turn? Whether it's our streaming services, we turn to the stories we love. We turn to our favorite shows. We turn to our favorite comedy specials. We turn to our favorite movies. And they never cease to provide comfort. And there is a power and a uniqueness in that. And stories are universal, the world over.
Erin, what are your thoughts?
I concur with everything you're saying. This moment right now reminds me a lot of, right after 9/11, when I think people had a great amount of fear. They didn't know what was going to happen. Everything, at least I apologize to our friends who are watching internationally, but at least in America, I know that there was a lot of concern of, what happens next and what happens now, and are we going to be safe, and how do we move forward? And I love that moment on SNL there when they made the very courageous choice to go back and have, start the show again. And Lorne Michaels asked Rudy Giuliani, can we be funny? And Rudy Giuliani said, why start now? And it was really kind of this sigh of relief of, in these times, people need to laugh. People need to feel some sort of, you use the word escape, but also some sort of refresher, but a release as well. And to be able to go into another world and share that with people that they love. I have always said, I don't think of what we're doing as saving lives, but I think of it as saving souls, because a lot of times people who don't feel the freedom to cry in their outside lives can go and sit in a movie theater and watch someone mourn the loss of their dog and shed tears of whatever pain they're feeling for something else. People who maybe are feeling severe sadness for something are presented with a story that makes them actually laugh or smile, and they have a moment of relief from whatever they're dealing with. We have been building up in a pressure cooker. I think a lot of the social media specifically has caused a lot of unnecessary anxiety and depression, and mental health has really hit an all-time high. And now adding this fuel to the fire, we need that relief more than ever. And so I know that I'm going to be turning to some of my favorite comedies and some of my favorite films that make me feel good. And I'm curious what other things people turn to, what other movies people like. If you have any feel-good movies, send them my way. I want to hear your thoughts, because I will certainly be indulging in the near future.
All right. Let's keep rolling here, guys. We're going to try to get through as many of these as possible today. 50 Shades writes, in my defense, I sent you the tips about Pokemon yesterday, hoping Chris would be on the show when you got to them, but her and Erin had just left 5 minutes before you got to them. Just my luck, I guess. I know. People get frustrated when they want to talk about anime or Pokemon and stuff like that, because I am really not a guy for either of those. Chris is really the one to have around for those, so I get your frustration. Don't worry about it. 50 Shades also writes, a viewer mentioned yesterday that Disney's only original content this year are 2 Pixar movies. Clearly, they never heard of Raya and the Last Dragon, coming out in November. That is got to be the Disney thing I am most looking forward to. Now, I know neither of you guys were at D23, but they showed us a big presentation on Raya and the Last Dragon. And I walked out of there more excited about that than anything else that got presented that day. Like, that's the thing that excited me the most. And I'm very stoked for that.
Is it a sequel to The Last Dragon with Sho'nuff, the Shogun, Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon, which is awesome?
No, it is very much not.
Oh,
but
that's
it's
too bad.
imaginative and creative and beautiful. And man,
when is it supposed to come out?
Later this year, I think November or something like that, I believe. Okay. But anyway, I'm very, very excited for that movie. Can't wait to see it. All right. 50 also writes, if by some miracle the virus will magically disappear next week, will all the movies and TV shows that have been delayed return to their original schedules? I don't know how you can return them to their original schedules at this point. It would just be too disruptive at this manner. I mean, it could mean, like, for instance, if everything magically disappeared next week, I don't think we're waiting until 2021 for Fast 9.
Right.
I honestly think they'll change gears and bring that back and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. Do you guys see a possibility that they just go, okay, put everything right back on their original release dates, or is that too much of a gear shift
Black
right now?
Widow will obviously be safe, but I think that
they haven't announced moving it yet.
Right, right. But that's what I'm saying is, like, movies that are sort of on the bubble, yes. But I think Mulan would still get a bit of a delay, because like I was saying earlier, they want that momentum of marketing, and that's the thing is the marketing has all slowed down, so they're going to want to be able to have time to rebuild the marketing.
Rob?
I completely agree with that. I mean, it's not one thing that just leaves a small void. There's a ripple effect. It's like throwing a rock in a pond. So you remove one thing, there's all kinds of other considerations around that decision that also have to be rectified. So,
Oh, John, you're a member of like AMC Movie Pass or something, right?
Yeah, A-list. Yeah.
Okay, A-list. Have you received any sort of emails from them? I'm not a member, which I know I should be. Have you received any sort of emails from them saying, "Hey, we're taking every precaution, we're sanitizing every seat"? Have you gotten any emails like that?
Yeah, there's been notification, and there are other movie theater chains that have done that as well. I just got one from, for instance, yesterday I just got one from ArcLight saying, we are taking, and I think AMC did the same thing, and I'm sure Regal has probably sent one out to there saying, just assuring their patrons that, hey, we are doing extra cleaning things. Like, I know the phrase we consulted with some medical experts, and we figured out a way to do these extra precautions of cleaning in between show times and blah blah. And I believe they're also implementing selling fewer tickets per theater, so you're
like
not
a third of the ticket sale,
or something
like
along those lines. So yeah, they're taking precautions. How long just taking precautions will keep their doors open, I don't know, but at least that's what they're trying to do right now. All right, next one up. An anonymous viewer writes, which movie had the most troubled journey from production to release? No Time to Die or New Mutants? Well, put it this way. One of those two films had their first trailer come out almost 3 years ago. So I think the clear winner in that is probably New Mutants. Matthew Phillips writes, Death, taxes, New Mutants, pushback. The three certainties in life. Matthew Phillips, death, taxes, and anytime now, New Mutants getting pushed back. I feel so bad for that movie, dude. I feel so bad for them. Christopher Brenson writes, New Mutants can't catch a break. Its new release date will be October 9th, and the world will end on October 8th. It does feel that way. Again, listen, you go the highs of highs. Whether you're a director, an actor, a cinematographer, whatever, you got a movie. You got a full feature Hollywood movie you've done and made. It's a comic book property, blah, blah. And it's just problem after problem after problem. I just feel so bad for these folks. Russell Amador writes, hey, John, despite all going right now in the world, do you have any intention of stepping out this weekend to see Toretto origin story, otherwise known as Bloodshot, or I Still Believe? I was debating between the two, and I'm still unsure which to roll with. Well, listen, everybody knows my feelings on faith-based movies. I think they're all utter garbage. And I developed that. The funny thing is, I developed that feeling about faith-based movies while I was in seminary.
Wow.
That's where me, and by the way, all of my friends in seminary were all like, yeah, faith-based movies suck. And we were all just there, and we talked about why we feel that. But at the same time, just like all films are subjective, they definitely have an audience. And there is an audience that appreciates and enjoys those, and that's awesome. No, probably not. Not this weekend. Not this weekend. Now, primarily why not this weekend is because Ann and I both have an insanely busy weekend in front of us. But even if that was not the case, I made the decision, like you heard me say on the show the other day, I am not going to completely exclude myself from going to movie theaters. But that said, I'm only going to go to the movie theaters. I'm going to limit the amount I go. And I'm only going to the movie theaters right now for things I'm insanely excited about. So, for instance, I was planning on going to the Mulan press screening. I was planning on going to that. But once things got really real with like Tom Hanks and the NBA closing, NHL closing, the Masters has now been delayed and postponed, Major League Baseball postponed,
the Houston Rodeo.
Well, of course, the Houston Rodeo. How did I not?
The Louisiana primary just got pushed 2 months.
I mean, yeah, so we see it affecting everything. When it really hit the fan the other day, I decided, I'm going to limit how much I go. And so things like Bloodshot, listen, it's Vin Diesel, so I want to see it. But it's not that important to me that I'm going to go to the theater to see it. So I'm probably not, to be honest with you. I'm probably not. All right, 50 Shades of Geek writes, John, we finally know what Dom's weakness is. It's the coronavirus. Yep, it's the one thing that's delayed him. It's the one thing that's delayed. Ryan Lohner writes, $20 says the first theater that tries to show New Mutants is going to fall into a sinkhole. It feels like, I don't know. Rob, we were talking like a year ago, hell, 6 months ago. We were talking about, are we ever going to see, so drop your phone, are we ever going to see New Mutants? Are they going to put it straight to streaming? Are they going to do whatever? Listen, do we at some point say, and does at some point, not to be overly superstitious, but at some point, does somebody at the offices of Disney just go, guys, this movie is cursed, and just just pull it, or do you think it's still safe to say it'll get its release date eventually?
Damn it. You know what? With these last TV spots, I want to see this movie more now than ever. They did not show us how New Mutant-y was going to become. I wanted to see magic. I love Ilyana Rasputin. I love her soul sword. And when they show her going full on magic, when magic is her character name in the X-Men, I was like, why can't I see this movie? I want to see this movie so bad. I can't even begin to tell you how much I love the Demon Bear storyline, how much it meant to comics, how much I want to see Bill Sienkiewicz's work brought to the big screen. I mean, come on, man. Show me this movie. Sell it to. I'll pay you $50 if you give it to me pay-per-view.
Yeah,
come on.
I want to see it too.
But look at a movie like Dirty Dancing. I mean, yeah, the release had no problems, but if you ever go back and watch some of the making of Dirty Dancing, they had pretty much, all the signs of an apocalypse happen. I think they even had a locust invasion at one point. There was everything that could go wrong with bringing a movie actually to the screen went wrong during the production. Some movies have issues with post, some movies have issues with, production, some movies have issues with pre-production.
Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of examples of movies that you just go, how in the world is this movie ever going to get made? This movie must be cursed. And then, it does really well. So hopefully this is just a really big buildup for what is going to be New Mutants, the greatest movie that has made more money than any movie ever in the history of any movie that's ever been made.
And then how do you make a sequel when now all the actors are 5 years older and supposed to be 1 week later?
Plus, I want to get rid of all my individual comic books, and I want to see my Demon Bear run go up in value.
All right, let's see. Next one up here. James Argenta writes, Mulan could get moved to Shang-Chi date due to production shutting down. Also, over under 50% that there will be no billion-dollar films this year. Well, we've talked before. Look, any film can surprise and hit $1 billion. But we have discussed before that we don't see any film that will likely hit $1 billion. Could, but we don't see any film this year that could likely hit $1 billion. So there's that. But remember, Shang-Chi, they're only shutting down right now temporarily first unit production. Second unit production on goes, the post-production work and all the production and that's going on, and hopefully this will only be a delay of a couple of days. So hopefully we're not going to see Shang-Chi have to give up its release date. That's the hope at this point. Slim Trav writes, I hope Tenet, Venom, and Wonder Woman 84 won't get delayed. Here's the thing about that, though, guys. These are movies that are all far enough away that if this is still an issue, we got
way bigger problems.
We're in real trouble. Now, thankfully, the good news is, I think it was you who brought up yesterday, Erin, that in China, they've gone from 300 new cases a day down to 30 new cases a day. Yeah. So because they took some extreme measures, and hopefully with all the measures that are happening here in North America, this is going to actually help that a lot. So hopefully we're going to be in a much better position by the time those things come out.
We're not taking extreme measures yet. I mean, de Blasio.
Well, for our culture, it's pretty extreme.
Yeah, it's very, but look at what happened in Italy. Italy was no, we're not going to, and it's hard to take such draconian measures when you don't live in a society that is structured the way that China was structured, Korea. And so America has been following the, Italian model. So we can pretty much look at what's going on in Italy right now and see our future. But New York already, I was talking to a girlfriend of mine last night who lives in New York, and she said de Blasio is hinting, hey guys, we might have to do an isolation, of Manhattan. So start stocking up, prepare to, he hasn't announced that yet, but, until, if this thing keeps growing and, we're going to have to start taking some extreme measures.
But I think those movies in particular that are mentioned, I think they're far enough away that right now I'll say this. I think right now we don't have to worry about them. Right now. That may change as we get a little bit closer. Let's see. Anonymous writes, maybe the coronavirus is how X-Men will be introduced in the MCU. That's called taking lemons and making lemonade.
Yeah.
That's way well done. Not trying to think positively and constructively.
Someone's already writing that script.
James Argenta writes, how long do you think the Onward will be film will be at number one? Probably for a bit. I mean, it was already going to be number one this weekend anyway. So I probably for a bit, but how much is number one really going to be? That's going to be the question. 50 Shades writes, just a precaution. Do you know if the the virus affects household pets, dogs, cats, giraffes? Just trying to be safe. I do believe that pets can get them. Can get it.
No, they announced yesterday
cats and
dogs cannot.
Really?
Definitively, yes.
I didn't know. So where's Joey?
My dog came in and actually brought me my phone and was pointing to the...
I say,
Gilbert's like, look, buddy, I can still lick your face. I'm like, all right.
I did not know that.
Joey is fine. It was just she does not like the rain. So I asked her this morning, do you want to see Uncle John? She said, give him a hug for me. Tell Robert to piss off. No, Joey loves
Joey.
you.
I love
Joey loves
Joey.
them, but my dogs don't like the rain either.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, my dogs
Joey's
don't either.
like, no, I'll just hold it for the next 7 days.
Like
They
when
poop
we
on the
have
cement instead of the grass.
we have Shadow and Lily, and when you just say walk, Lily runs to the door, jumps up and down, and starts going "Rah, rah, rah," like all excited. We do that, but when it's raining out, we do that and open the door. She'll stand there for a second, turn around, and start to walk back in the house.
Yeah.
I mean that's it. She does not like the rain. Okay, anyway, we move on here. Next, DAL writes, just had to cancel travel plans to Yellowstone National Park this summer due to the coronavirus. Really bummed because it would be my first trip to the U.S. from Sweden. Better safe than sorry. And it's just another way that it is impacting us all in different levels. I mean, Ann and I, we were supposed to fly to Florida in 2 weeks to go down for Ann's birthday, go to WrestleMania, go to Disney World, go to Universal, and we had to cancel our plans as well. And that's definitely one of the things that's affecting. So hopefully, DAL, you're going to get a chance to come over here and take a look. And that's a gorgeous place to go, by the way.
That wedding that I was talking about yesterday that I already had my plane tickets for, I got a text message from the bride. The wedding is in 3 weeks. And she was like, hey guys, so we're postponing our wedding. And I'm like, oh my God, all those vendors. Anyone who has planned a wedding, you know what it means to postpone your wedding 3 weeks beforehand.
And they just announced at Hasbro that Ann's at work today, but after today, all Hasbro employees have got to work from home. So I'm setting up a desk downstairs for Ann. She's going to be working from here. Yay, 24 hours a day under the same roof. Actually, that's a really good thing for me. I'm not so thrilled for her. She's getting the short end of that stick. But she has a really good friend at work who comes to a lot of events we do, a lot of things that we do. And he's getting married. And Ann and I were invited to their wedding. And Ann came home yesterday and said, yeah, Ryan was telling me that his fiance is really stressing out and freaking out about all this stuff because
when is the wedding?
Like in 2 or 3 weeks. Oof. So I said, Ann, because you got to understand, Ann and I, as far as I'm concerned, we did our wedding right. We literally got married in our backyard. We got a bunch of chairs. We put out chairs in our backyard. We had a friend officiate. We had catering bring in food to the house. And we just did it at home. And it was the greatest thing in the world. I said, Ann, you and I did it right. But you got to understand, like studies have been done. Like more than dying, one of the most stressful things that a lot of women will go through is the planning of their wedding. And because they put in like sometimes up to a year or more than a year of meticulous details and planning. It's a big deal. And any little thing that can disrupt that can be incredibly stressful, let alone something like this that's going on in the world. So you got to cut her some slack. If she's feeling a lot of stress, you got to cut her some slack.
Just get married live and get super chats and tips to start your life out together.
Also,
right.
John, you had you did it right for you guys because
Yes,
I
for
was
us, for me and my
I
wife,
was
yes.
one of those brides, and Tom actually was really great. Like we planned we worked hand in hand on it together, and we looked at it like this is our first big project that we're going to do together, and we're going to buy a house together one day. We're going to have kids together one day. We're going to do a lot of things together. This is our first big project where we're going to figure out how well we work together. And we had our wedding was massive. We had surprise performers flying in. We had like a 12-piece band. We had 350 guests that were invited. It was in another state. It was crazy. And to this day, I have no regrets about it. And it was the greatest wedding that I've ever been to. And
how stressful was it for you though?
You know what?
An event that big,
but here's the
gotta
thing
be stressful,
though.
right?
I love the type of person that I am. I love planning things like that. I love planning birthday parties and events. So for me, it was the right way to go. And yeah, there were obviously moments of stress, but I think that I would have been just as stressed out if I had had it in my backyard because of the thing the way that I would have wanted it to go in order for me to feel like it was reflective of my personality. You know, my cousin, similar to you guys, she got married on a beach. She planned it 2 weeks beforehand. She wore like some flowers in her hair that she picked that morning, and it was pretty much it.
Yeah, but no, it is. But
and it
for
was
Ann and
perfect
I,
for her.
For Ann and I, it was the right thing for us. But that's why Ann, I think, had a hard time understanding. Like, why is getting married so stressful? It's like, you got to understand, people put so much planning into this. It's a huge deal.
And a lot of money. You know, these
vendors. So much money.
And that's the thing, is that you
But
put these...
we got to move on.
Oh,
We have way too many
questions. This isn't
questions.
a show about weddings? What do you mean?
Sorry, I took us down that rabbit path. Okay. Let's see here. Murray Reich writes, I just heard Regal is switching from serving Coke products to Pepsi. I'm excited, especially Pepsi Max is my favorite. I'm telling you what.
Gross.
I might go to a Regal theater. Listen, I know this causes a lot of controversy, but I'm a Coke guy when
Me
it comes.
too. 100%.
I'm totally Coke products.
But I found when a number of years ago when I decided to switch off of regular soda and go to diet soda, I found that I actually preferred Diet Pepsi over Diet Coke.
No.
And it's true, even though I like Coke's regular Coke more than I like regular Pepsi. And so when I'm in a restaurant, like BJ's, for instance, like when we go to lunch at BJ's, and I'll go, I'm just used
I love
to
BJ's.
Everybody...
I was hoping you guys were going to slide right past that.
Look at me not saying anything. Okay. So where was I? Train of thought. Here we are, BJ's.
Let the comments...
But I'm so used to so many places only serving Coke products that I just by reflex when they come by and say, you know, blah, 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 and I say, oh, I'll have a Diet Coke. And I don't drink diet anything at home because I just drink Zevia because it's a natural thing. But when I'm out, I'm so naturally say that. And it makes my day when a waiter will say, actually, we have Pepsi products. And I go, oh, that's awesome. Please, can I have a Diet Pepsi, please? That's so great. So, yeah, I'm stoked about this. I might actually go over to a Regal theater and spec it out.
For Regal.
Well done, Regal. Well done. I'm excited about
Not my
that.
jam.
Okay, Orange Hand writes, so maybe the Leafs get to play in June after... Okay, so for those of you like, what's the big deal there? The Leafs suck. They have sucked my entire lifetime with very, very few flashes of competency every once in a while. But in my lifetime that I've walked the earth, in the time that I have walked the earth...
You're talking about the Maple Leafs?
The Toronto Maple Leafs.
Okay.
The Toronto Maple Leafs have never even been to the Stanley Cup final.
Really?
Let alone win. Oh, yeah. No, in the entire time that I've walked this earth.
I'm surprised that that's even like... I feel like as a Canadian hockey team... You have to win a Stanley Cup.
They are the most iconic. They are the most storied, iconic franchise in the history of the NHL.
As like the Susan Lucci of hockey.
Yeah, no, they are. Them and the Montreal Canadiens, they are the most storied, iconic teams in the history of an NHL. And while I have drawn breath on this earth, they have never even been to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Wow.
And so the joke is, hey, maybe now they'll get to play in June. Get it? Because the NHL's been delayed and they never play that late in the year because they're always out by then.
Oh.
So that was actually a really good joke, Orange Hand. That was a really good joke. All right, Dan writes, I work at a theater and I can't believe they're refusing to close during all this. I live with my grandparents but can't afford to stay home even though I want to keep them safe. If I bring the virus home to them, I blame the theaters and their greed. Here's the thing, Dan. It's not greed. It is straight up survival. I want to point everybody to a really good article that was written over on IndieWire as to, you saw me flash this up a little bit earlier, but why movie theaters are still mostly open and why that most likely won't last very long. But it is for movie theaters a matter of survival. You can make the argument that, yeah, but if you close, then you don't have to pay the staff. True. And that represents some savings. But the biggest costs of being in existence are ongoing, even if you close the doors. It is for a lot of these theaters, it's not a matter of greed. And I know that's what it feels to a lot of us when we're talking about anything corporate. And I get it because I'm not a big corporate guy. I don't like the big corporate overlords. But to be fair, it's also a matter of survival for them. It's that if they can, and if they're obeying all the laws, and if they are in consultation with health experts to try to figure out a way to be as safe as possible, I'm not saying I would keep my doors open. I'm not saying people should or shouldn't. I'm just saying that you need to also take a breath and realize closing doors could represent going out of business. It very well could. And again, I'm not defending anybody. I'm not accusing anybody. I'm just saying that I think when it comes to stuff like this, we need to take a little bit of a step back and say, I need to at least try to understand the context that this individual person or this body is actually facing and what their situation is and what the repercussions could be on them if they close it. Again, I want to point everybody to this IndieWire story. It's a very good, well-written, balanced piece on there. So I want to encourage anybody to go and take a look at that. Listen, we've only got a few minutes left here, guys, so I'm going to keep going here as much as we can. Darth Campea the Wise writes, there's a movie starring Maisie Williams on Netflix. Yeah, we were just mentioning that, called Then Came You, if you're interested. Can't say that I am, but the fact that it's Maisie Williams, I may very well be, because I'll tell you what, I have been curious to see her outside of Game of Thrones. I've been very curious to see her at Games, and I'm sitting here waiting for New Mutants. I should be celebrating the 2nd anniversary of me watching New Mutants, but instead it still hasn't come out in theaters. Have you guys heard about this movie? Are you interested in it?
No, I haven't heard about it, but I'd watch it.
I'd watch it.
There was another movie she was in I watched I kind of liked.
What?
I think it was called I Boy. I want to say was it I Boy?
I Boy? Like,
Yeah, it was like a sci-fi movie.
Like
yeah. I
Boy?
think it was called that. I think it was
I
that.
Boy. Huh. Intriguing. All right.
Might be wrong about that, but I think it was called that.
All right. KJ Prolix writes, wow, something positive to say about Cineplex, the big movie theater chain in Canada, which I bag on a lot. In Canada, Fast 9 and Quiet Place 2 delayed, and within an hour, they sent me a refund. Props to them. Hey, listen, they're under new ownership. Cineplex just got bought. It gives me hope that maybe they can turn things around, but that is a good move. Get people their refunds right away. It maintains faith with your customers. And guess what? When something goes wrong, I don't know how you guys feel about this. When we all get pissed off when something goes wrong with a company we're doing business with, right? I actually get really impressed when something goes wrong and I see that company do as much as they can to try to make it right. It actually increases my customer loyalty
Totally.
more than if everything just went smooth. Like, can you think of something like that?
Well, I got to tell you, Fandango refunded my No Time to Die tickets, my IMAX tickets, almost a couple days. ArcLight has not. I have tickets to the very first show of No Time to Die at 9 o'clock in the morning at the Cinerama Dome.
And you still haven't been refunded?
They haven't refunded me. I've never, and you can't. I use their app all the time. I love the ArcLight, but I'm like, hey, yo, what's up?
What about you, Erin? Have had any experiences of like good or bad when it comes to like a good or bad customer service?
I'm actually really impressed. Delta Airlines right now is offering, anytime, if you want to change your flights because of coronavirus or for whatever reason, they're waiving their change fees, which are normally $250. So that's pretty exorbitant. So I mean, I'm a Delta person, Sky Miles member. So that kind of stuff, when they go, hey, we understand you're probably gonna have to change your flight, which I am because of this wedding. I like it when people do that. I think it shows, because for me, people mess up. Or mistakes happen, or things out of people's control happen. When someone is willing to say, I'm sorry, and here's how I'm going to make it okay, there's very little that someone can do to me to hurt me. And this is on a personal level. If you have the ability to say, you know what, I'm sorry, this is what I did that was wrong, and this is what I'm going to do to try to make it up, I'm like, cool. Like I've ended friendships because I'm like, all you have to say is I'm sorry right now. All you have to say is I'm sorry. And people just like refuse to say those two words. I'm like, you know what? There's no reason for us to continue this friendship then. If you can't manage that, I'll end a friendship over it. So I'll definitely end a relationship with a company over it.
I am sorry that I forgot about the spider scene in The Witcher episode 1.
What are you going to do to make it up to me, John?
I will show you something else. I don't know. I like
that picture.
Show.
The picture of you in. You know what? How you can make it up to me? You can show me a video of you breakdancing.
Unlikely.
Oh my
Unlikely.
God! I'm with her.
Friendship ended. I'll just get.
I would pay any amount of money.
I accept your decision. I'm okay with that. No, those are. It's like top men. They're buried in a box among boxes out at the Campea Ranch.
You had a dance crew.
No.
Where is the crew, though? That's what I'm talking about. Anybody from John's crew, where are you, and what is he paying for your silence?
Johnny Camp and the Campea Bunch.
No. You ain't gonna see no video footage.
What was the name of your dance crew?
Do you remember?
I don't. I was on the tip of my tongue.
Zodiac Crew.
The Zodiac. That's right.
And
Because
did each
name-
of you have a different? Were you like I'm
I
the
was
Scorpio?
Pisces.
You were, of course, you were
I'm
Pisces.
Pisces.
Did you have
Yeah.
outfits that had like the different
so
star patterns of the
sensitive.
Zodiac on them?
We had custom T-shirts, but we all had our own individual Adidas windbreaker outfits that we would wear. I had the blue with the white stripes.
Oh, nice.
Come on, dude. You got to show this to us.
I had.
Come on.
Come on.
I had
just a picture of you guys. You know,
I had shaved the sides of my head with just a little bit of stubble, and then lightning bolts, sun sprayed in. So I had blonde lightning bolt on the side of my head.
oh my god, did you just love Vanilla Ice?
I thought I was the coolest guy in the world. I did, yeah,
I
totally.
mean, at the time, you might have been.
And then it was only a few years after that I had like my hair down to here, like in my band playing days. I had like my really long hair.
What instrument did you play?
I played guitar, piano, keyboard.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Tom does too. Have you
Like,
guys
look
ever
into
talked?
the corner there? Like that's.
Have you guys ever talked about this?
Me and Tom?
Yeah.
No.
All
But
right.
I actually, for my movies,
I'm gonna coordinate a
You
little
were in a
jam
U2
session.
cover band,
I was
right?
I was also in a U2 cover band, and I actually composed half the music to my movies.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
Oh my god. Yeah, Tom's band Reserve for Rondi played at our wedding.
Oh, that's right. I remember you telling me about
You
that.
can actually listen to them on the Reserve for Rondi station if you ask your Alexa, "Hey Alexa, play the Reserve for Rondi station."
Yeah, you know what? I would take my long hair back in a minute.
Please don't.
The only reason I don't have my long hair again,
Please don't.
and believe me, I looked better with it. It hid part of my face. So the only reason I don't is I have the worst hair, and once it gets to a certain length, like I would have to just literally go away to a cabin for 7 months when my hair hits a certain stage, so nobody can see me until it at least grows out and weighs itself down. Because I have this weird licks in my. Anyway, this is fashion talk, hair talk with everybody. Nobody cares about this. Let me move on. Let's see. Baby Boy 8603 writes, with all the movies getting pulled and pretty much nothing to see, should we as an audience still be paying our monthly fees to our movie subscription? You know, that's a very good question. Somebody wrote to me last night and said, you know, if they do close the theaters, will they stop charging us for our A-list and stuff? And that's a good question. Now, as of right now, I'll say this. Me being an A-list member, that is a contract between me and AMC Theaters. If studios pull their movies, that's not AMC's responsibility. And if you have a Regal membership, that's not Regal's responsibility. I mean, they're still there to provide you their service. They have movies on their screens. If you want to come down and watch a movie, you get that. What you might want to do is talk to your customer service person for your either ArcLight. No, ArcLight doesn't have a plan. Regal or the Alamo Drafthouse or AMC or Cinemark. Talk to a customer service rep and say, can I put my membership on hold? And I would be surprised if they don't offer you that option, to put your membership on hold if you feel that way. So that's something you can look into. Just going to fly through the last couple ones here, guys. Curtis Lopez writes, I mentioned before that I work at Warner Brothers Studio Tours in Burbank. Because of the COVID-19, we are closed until March 28th, so it's going to be days of watching you live. Well, the bright side of that. There's the bright side. And I've been on that studio tour, and I'll tell you what, guys, when it opens back up, and if you're in the LA area, I do recommend taking that studio tour. It's a lot of fun.
And
I
by
really
the way,
enjoy it.
Curtis, I was supposed to come say hi to you when I was shooting All Rise. Because
that's
we
right.
shoot right there. And you know what? The day that I was going to come say hi to you, which I said that I was going to, and I planned on it, that was the day we were actually on location. So if you've been secretly hating me and thinking that I'm an asshole because I didn't come say hi, I promise you I was planning on it. Just we were shooting downtown that day.
She's an asshole.
I am
No,
an
I'm
asshole.
kidding.
It's true.
You know what? And Anne said this to me the other day, last night actually, and I kind of brushed it off. But I'm thinking, because Anne said this, she goes, John, do you think that with like movies getting pulled and a lot of, because she just got told that she was going to have to work from home for at least 2 weeks. She goes, I bet it's not just me that's happening to. There's going to be people. Maybe you should do some more live streaming every day. And I'm thinking, you know, maybe I should. I mean, listen, if we can't be at work, maybe we at least still all hang out together. I don't know. I'll think about that. Okay, let's see. And then Curse writes, P.S. Don't worry, we get paid leave. That's really good of them to do.
Fantastic.
Yeah, the fact that Disney and Warner Brothers are still paying their people, even though they don't have to do that.
And Mark Cuban, apparently.
Really? Is still paying? Oh, that's right. And you know what? I heard Kevin Love of the Cleveland Cavaliers, he donated $100,000 for people who work in the stadium because they're not going to have their jobs to work on. And he donated $100,000 to try to cover some of their thing.
That's a baller move.
You know, I'll say this too. Baller. Okay, you get that one too. Okay, that's pretty good.
Well done, Robert.
You know, it does kind of bring something up though, is that, again, bright silver lining. When bad things are happening, it can absolutely we know the worst out of people, but it can also absolutely bring the best out of us. When there are bad things happening, it can bring the best out of us. And I think hearing the little things like that, even, you know what, they didn't have to do things like that, and the fact that they do, I think that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty cool. Good. Then they can just go back to being evil later. But I think that's pretty cool. Okay, 50 Shades writes, I think I need to bring up Pokemon in your show more frequently. I just caught another shiny Pokemon. You and your show are my new shiny Charmjon. I don't even know what a shiny thing is. I'm sure if Anne was in the room right now, because she still plays that damn Pokemon Go game every time we walk out the door, I'm sure she would know exactly what it is we're talking about. Maybe, you know what? She's going to be working from home. Maybe I should have Anne on the show a little bit.
Totally should.
Why don't you take her on walks with talks or talks with walks?
Thoughts on walks.
She'll play Pokemon while you're talking.
Her whole thing would be, let's pretend this remote control is her whole thing. You just see her like this.
Yeah, and every time whenever she catches a Pokemon, she'll just announce which, like, I got a Snorlax, and you'll be talking.
For those of you who play Pokemon Go, you'll know what this is. You'll see her, and she'll be doing this. You know exactly what that is. Okay, anyway. So, yeah, maybe you'll see Anne on the John Campea Show sometime next week. Jeffrey Hemphill writes, I would love for Bosch and Goliath to have a few crossover episodes. It can and should happen. Listen, I will say this. That Bosch show, I only saw the first season. I really liked it.
It's good.
But I have no explanation as to why I didn't go back and watch season 2 onward, because I really liked the first season. I thought it was quite good. That's Amazon Prime, right? I believe it's Amazon. Yeah, pretty sure it was one of the first Amazon Prime exclusive shows.
It's still on.
Oliver, he's really good. I mean,
they're doing their last season right now, right? Yeah. So that I never did see Goliath. That's the one with Billy Bob Thornton, right?
Yeah, and it's really good. They've done 3 seasons. It's really good too.
And that's also on Amazon?
You know what? I think it is.
Yes.
I think it is. I think that's also an Amazon show.
Crossover could happen.
Look at that. Amazon kicking ass all over the place. Okay, last 2 questions of the day, guys. Then we got to wrap it up. Eli Gray writes, Rob, my friend and I are launching a channel and wanted to see if you have any free Enterprise posters left for our studio. We saw it twice in theaters.
I do.
Oh.
I do. I have the free Enterprise posters are very, very rare. There's a very few left that I still have, and I would be happy to give it to you for your.
For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, Robert wrote and directed a feature film with William Shatner and from Will and Grace. What's his name again?
Eric McCormack.
And Eric McCormack called Free Enterprise.
Both good Canadian kids.
I didn't know Eric was.
Oh yeah.
How did I not know that?
Yes, he is. He's Stratford. Oh yeah, he's very.
Was he not mentioned in your Good Canadian Kids newsletter?
Yeah, I didn't. I must have missed that. I must have missed that installment of it. But for those you know, that was Robert Meyer Burnett's feature film, and you should absolutely check it out. It's called Free Enterprise. Actually, Rob, if people want to see it, where can they?
There's a horrible version streaming on Amazon. It's 4:3. It's an old transfer. It's not my preferred version of the movie. The sound mix isn't right, and it looks bad.
Great,
but you can
sign
see
me
it. If you can, the only way to get it, the best way to get it, is on the Anchor Bay DVD that was released in 2006. I'm desperately hoping to get a 4K version of it done, but it's expensive.
All right, guys. And listen, we're going to wrap that thing up here right now. For all the rest of you, from Tony Curran, James Tishabu, Ben Rayner, Raymond Verrata, on and on and on. For everybody else who has outstanding questions sitting out there, do not worry. I'm going to make a companion video a little bit later today, and we will get all caught up on all the questions you guys sent in. In the meantime, you guys can still send in questions, and we will get to them on the open mic show that we're going to do tomorrow morning. But that will wrap up today's installment, guys, of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making this community a part of your day. I also want to especially thank the 2 people sitting here with me. We, of course, got Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, where can people find you and all your adventures online?
You can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM. Find me on Instagram on my name, Robert Meyer Burnett. Or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and my show, Observations.
And, of course, over here, we've got Erin Cummings. Erin, you're you got some exciting stuff you're going to do on Monday, but we'll talk about that after Monday. But in the meantime, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Erin L. Cummings. And if you're going to be in the Los Angeles area and we are not all staying home because of coronavirus around April 30th, check me out. We are doing a live drunken stage reading of A League of Their Own with some other notable actors and actresses that you may recognize. You can check that out on scriptsgonewild.com.
All right, guys, that will do it for this show. And thank you to all of you guys who sent in questions today, not just because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but also because you supported the channel while you were doing it. And all of us involved here at the John Campea YouTube channel, thank you very much for that. Again, guys, don't forget, tomorrow we've got open mic. Make sure you join us in the morning for that. And then, of course, the John Campea Show returns on Monday. Guys, be safe, be kind to each other, be good, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.